Welcome back, it's me, Lou. Alright, so today's video is going to be a mail haul. So this is a follow-up to my video game video where I highlighted my recently purchased 8BitDO arcade stick. And in that video, I kind of talked about how I wanted to upgrade the joystick with some, different parts. So this morning, I placed an order on Amazon, and lo and behold, everything came within a couple of hours. So I have all the parts I need, I think, to upgrade my 8BitDO arcade stick. And let's take a look at that now. Let's see what I got. Alright, so far we have one small envelope. This is the 5-piece JST XH adapter. I don't know what that is. We'll take a look at this in a minute. I have the octagonal gates for the joystick. I'm tongue-tied right now. I have over here is the Brook Fighter Ball bat top for the joystick. A Torx T10 screwdriver to open up the joystick casing. This is the Sanwa joystick. Alright, so here's the actual new joystick I'm going to replace the old one with. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are 8 Sanwa buttons. They're black sleeves with red buttons. And then I think that's it. I believe I was supposed to have 6 things in the order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, so everything's there. Let's clean up some of this packing foam. Alright, so I have the joystick here. We'll take a look at that. The Sanwa buttons. The Torx T10 screwdriver. The bat top. I believe these are cables, I think. And then here's the octagonal gate. So I only needed one octagonal gate, but this was a 2-pack and the price was pretty reasonable for 2. Yeah, so here's the octagonal gate for the joystick. So as I was talking about in the video, so let's pretend the screwdriver here is your joystick, okay? So this is the actual joystick. And then underneath the casing, there's going to be the mechanism for the joystick, and then there's going to be this gate. The previous gate was square shaped, where this one's actually 8-sided. So when the joystick's in here, when you push up, you can actually hit the up corner. So you see it's an actual octagon shape. So when you hit the joystick up, it's a little bit more precise. That's what I'm trying to say. So when you move up, it's gonna hit that. You can do your upper corners and lower corners more accurately. So instead of having this being a square, this one's actually an octagon, which I prefer. As I mentioned before, it's all based off of personal preference. So this screwdriver is a Torx T10. It's not a flathead or a Phillips. Let's get into focus. Yeah, so it's a different kind of screwdriver. Like if you have like an Xbox control pad, if you look underneath, it's not normal screws that hold it together. So you need something like this to disassemble the joystick. All right, over here is the Brooks Fighter Ball bat top. So I'm replacing the ball top on the joystick with this. As you can see here, it's not a ball shape. And they called it a bat top because it's kind of similar to like a baseball bat. This is cool because this is not made of plastic. This is actually wood. So it's a little bit of luxury, but it's nice. It's going to add a nice finish to my joystick once it's done. Is it excessive? Maybe a little bit, but it looked nice, and it was the only bat top that I could get delivered to me the same day. So that's the only reason why I got it. In this envelope here, I believe we have cables. Yeah, so this cable, this will attach the new joystick lever to the board. And it came in a 3-pack. These are the Sanwa buttons. So these are the kind of buttons that you'll actually find like on a real arcade cabinet. The buttons that came stock on the joystick, I believe, are kind of, they're not necessarily knockoffs, but they're lesser quality. You know, I just want something that is actually like legit. So alright, hopefully everything's okay. I'm a little cautious just because I've read in the Amazon reviews, sometimes people would get these buttons and the pins would be bent, so I'm just kind of worried about that. I've ordered buttons before on Amazon, but most of the time they come in a box. This is just bubble wrapped, so I'm just a little worried. Hopefully they're okay. Now let's take a look. Yeah, so these are push buttons, so you're gonna push. These have like a push mechanism here to lock into place. And as you can see, I opted with a black sleeve and a red button. But that was mostly because those are the only buttons that could get delivered to me in the same day. Nice click to them. And they're actual real Sanwa buttons. If you look carefully, you can see the logo right there. Sanwa. So these aren't knockoffs, these are legit buttons. There we go. So these look all okay. I'm just examining them to make sure the pins aren't bent. So I got 2, 4, 6, 8. Excellent. I was kind of worried also because I was reading some people would order the 8-pack, but then they'd only receive 6 buttons, and I need the complete 8. So I have those. Really happy about this. And then lastly, we have the Sanwa joystick lever. I'm really excited to check this out. I've never swapped out a joystick lever before. I've done buttons and other modifications to joysticks, but this is a first for me, so. Okay, here's a cable. I'm not going to be needing this. This one requires some soldering, and I can't do that. So, and here is the joystick. Really, really cool. Let's take a look at this. Hopefully everything's intact. Yeah, my biggest worry is that when this stuff gets shipped to me, that stuff like the pins are going to be destroyed or racked or bent, but they're okay here. So here's the actual joystick mechanism, and here's that gate I was talking about. So this gate is actually is actually a square. So this is the top of the joystick. The ball is, here's the ball, but I'm not going to use the ball. Instead I'm going to use the bat top. So when you move the joystick around, as you can see here, it's gonna like hit the corners. But if you have an octagonal one, it's gonna be more precise. You know, you're actually gonna hit an actual real corner. And this joystick feels really, really sweet. It's nice and clicky. It doesn't have that kind of like floaty, gappy feeling that my previous one had. You know, just listen to it. Really nice. I'm really excited to check that out. So yeah, all right, so I'm gonna do this off camera. I don't feel confident enough to perform, you know, electronic surgery under a camera, just in case I make mistakes, and the process might take me longer than I'd like. So I'll come back to you in a minute with the finished product. So until then, fingers crossed that this goes smoothly. And we are back. So I present to you the completed 8BitDO arcade stick with my upgraded parts. Alright, so let's get started. Okay, so I replaced the original control lever with the Sanwa control lever. Here was the original control lever that was inside of the machine. As I mentioned before, it had a square gate in here, and I opted for an octagonal one instead. The new control lever, it's a lot tighter than this one. It feels a little bit better. This one kind of has a little bit too much play in it. This one, the play is very minimal, as opposed to this one. I do like the bat top a little bit more than the ball top. To be honest, though, I could have probably played with this still if I wanted to, but like I said, growing up in the arcades, you know, so much use with the larger, taller ball bat top as opposed to the smaller one. I also swapped out the original 8 buttons here with these new ones. So here was one of the old buttons. As you can see here, this button has a red sleeve around the button, whereas these buttons have a black sleeve around the button. I prefer the black sleeve just because it looks cleaner and it doesn't make the buttons look as large. So overall, it's a nicer appearance. Pressing them, it's comparable. These buttons feel a little bit shorter in height, so I believe, you know, the range of travel is gonna be a lot less. All the buttons are very responsive. I ran Street Fighter last night to test it. Overall, it's a nice heavy joystick. I ran it on my lap for a while I was playing, and it didn't. The weight of the stick, there was no issue with that. The biggest problem for me was just trying to get this synced up with my Nintendo Switch. And at first I had problems connecting via Bluetooth, and also problems connecting with a wired connection. And then after doing some research online, the issue is that you know, before you connect this to your Switch, you have to actually power down your Switch altogether. You can't connect to it, you know, when it's asleep. And if you do connect it when it's asleep, you need to like actually restart the console altogether. I think it just kind of maybe resets the connection. So, you know, after I did that, I had no difficulty connecting either wirelessly or with the USB cable. It's also nice because over here you can switch between Switch mode and PC mode. And if you switch it to Switch mode, small little letters will light up under the buttons, letting you know which buttons, you know. So, you know, this might be B, this might be A, this might be Y, this might be X. But then when you switch it to X input, that means PC. All of a sudden, the letters will change, and the buttons will be laid out correspondingly, as if you're using a PC gamepad. So that's a really cool feature. In terms of playability, I had no issues pulling off all the fight moves I normally do, like whether it be like a quarter circle for a fireball or like a dragon punch. Everything, double dashing, everything seemed to work all right. The spacing of the buttons felt pretty good. Depending on the game you're playing, you might have to go into the settings just to remap your buttons. Like I was playing the 30th anniversary of Street Fighter, and and immediately right off the bat you have to remap the buttons just so you can actually get it so it corresponds with like an arcade layout. Like if you try playing like natively without remapping the buttons, it's kind of wonky. I think like this is low punch, medium punch, and then hard punch is all the way over here, and I think this registers as like maybe like LZ or something. So for me, I had to go into the options for Street Fighter and just remap the control so it mimicked the arcade, with low punch, medium punch, high punch, low kick, medium kick, high kick. But it was great. It feels nice, and it's responsive. Like I said, some of the technical issues I ran into had easy fixes. Like this being able to connect it wirelessly or wired. I ran into that issue, but then the simple act of like actually depowering my switch or restarting it solved that issue. Internally, I ran into like a couple of issues. It was more so trying to remove the original connectors and wires from the pins on the buttons, just because the connectors are so tight that I had a difficult time trying to remove them from these pins. But I mean, I was able to do it successfully, and yeah, that's pretty much it. That was the experience. It wasn't that hard for me. It took about an hour, but it was mostly because I was kind of just stuck trying to remove the wires from the connectors, and it just took me a while just because I wanted to be careful about it. It's a nice beginner project too. So if you've never modded a stick before, this one is very doable. And there's a lot of tutorials on YouTube that can like guide you through the process. For me, I found a channel named Joystick NY, and they kind of ran through the process of how to like swap out the control lever, how to swap out the buttons, and how to like reconnect things. Very, very easy to understand. So I mean, it's a fun beginner project. It's if you have an interest in this kind of stuff. The one thing I was kind of after I was all done though, it kind of made me reflect on the total cost of the project. So the joystick by itself, I think it was like anywhere between $80 to like $89, and that's for the stock stick. But then buying the separate pieces, I believe the new control lever was like $27. The wooden bat top, that was kind of a lot. That was like $20 on its own. The 8 buttons here, I think it was like $22. It was like maybe like $3 or $4 for the new screwdriver I needed. I think it was like $5 for the new internal connectors, and then $7 for the octagonal gate. So I think by the time all is said and done, I'm looking at something that's well over $150 to $170. And at that price point, I could have easily just bought, I think it was like a Mayflash joystick that already had Sanwa joystick, control lever, and Sanwa buttons. But I didn't know that until after the fact. So, I mean, I should have done my homework a little bit better, and then I could probably save myself some money. But in the end, I remembered that one of the key selling points of this joystick was the aesthetics. This reminded me a lot of like the old NES, especially with this gray and then the black and the red buttons and just everything about it. And the Mayflash stick, it looked nice, but it didn't have that same Nintendo Entertainment System aesthetic like I wanted. So yeah, that's the only downside to the whole thing. So like after I was done with the project, I was kind of like, man, I kind of spent a little bit more money than I intended. But I had fun doing it. It was nice to actually mod a stick again. It's been like 2 or 3 years since I've actually did something like this. So it was just a fun project, and I'm like kind of itchy to do another one. So maybe in the future I might do another custom joystick. But next time I want to do one where I can actually like maybe mod the casing and change out the graphics. like I did before for my Razer Panthera Evo stick. So yeah, let's wrap this video up. If you're into arcade games or retro games or fighting games, I suggest playing with a joystick, especially if you're like me, if you grew up in the 80s or 90s and you frequented the arcades a lot. There's something that's really cool about, you know, being at home and then having that same kind of feel in the arcade in terms of like the actual, you know, real buttons and then the actual like control stick. There's something about it. It's just really awesome. And at the same time, if you're a competitive player, you know, there is an advantage to playing with a joystick if that's what you kind of like, you know, were weaned on. And in terms of modifying it, it's like I mentioned, it's a fun project. It's a nice, accessible beginner project. You know, it's not too intimidating or daunting, and there's so many tutorials online that could guide you through the process step by step. So yeah, this is a fun little evening project, and you know, the end result is that I get to play all my fighting games now with a little bit of the arcade, you know what I mean? So it feels a little bit more natural as opposed to playing with a you know, control pad. And it's just cool hearing the, you know, the joystick click and then having the tactile feels of the buttons underneath you. So yeah. All right, wrapping this video up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you are new to my channel, welcome. And if you are a returning subscriber or viewer, thank you so much for your likes, comments, and support. I greatly appreciate it. So until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, and most importantly, be happy. All right, I'll see you at the next one.